working downstream on the River Irk. This is a CSO, which is a combined sewer overflow. It's one of hundreds of these that you'll find on the rivers around Greater Manchester. In the UK, our sewage system is combined. That means the wastewater from your house, everything you flush down your toilet, the water that goes out of your bath, your shower, ends up in the same pipe as basically the rainfall that runs off the roads. One of the problems in recent times is because wastewater infrastructure hasn't had the investment necessary, systems like this have been overflowing far too frequently. One of the issues of many of the urban rivers around Greater Manchester is the sewage discharges are just far too frequent. This is pretty gross. You know, they've got sanitary pads here, sanitary pad on the tree, wet wipes there, wet wipes in the branches here. If you look over there, you can see them up in the trees. This is just a very clear graphic illustration that lots of sewage is being discharged into this river. Clearly there's a responsibility of people not to flush this stuff down the toilet. Sadly, it's an illustration that many of the urban rivers around Manchester and in other parts of the UK are a little better than open sewers. I'm Jamie Woodward. I'm Professor of Physical Geography at the University of Manchester. I've done a lot of work on the rivers of Greater Manchester with a particular focus on microplastic pollution and how that relates to the sewage scandal. Idyllic, isn't it? We've just moved a few hundred metres upstream of the Weir location where we were at the CSO. Stood again by the River Irk on the left bank. A kingfisher just flew past us. So that's an illustration of potentially fantastic healthy ecosystems. Well, we're in the middle of a sewage scandal, particularly in England at the moment. A lot of data now showing that far too much sewage has been discharged into our rivers, into our lakes, into our coastal waters. And there's been a huge amount of media interest. It's a public health hazard. But also there's the issue that sewage degrades rivers. Sewage kills ecosystems. So it's really important that we control the amount of sewage that goes into rivers. Key solution to this, of course, is to make sure we have sufficient capacity and have the infrastructure so that we can treat the wastewater. The investment in that hasn't kept pace with climate change. It hasn't kept pace with population growth. The water companies in many ways have been sleeping at the wheel in that respect. We need much more investment. Dumping sewage in rivers is still spectacularly profitable, and we have to take away that incentive. I've been saying for a number of years there are many dedicated professionals at the Environment Agency, but they've lost the capacity to monitor what the water companies are doing. We've had the perfect storm where the water companies have been operating effectively in a regulation-free environment. That has to change. And communities can play a huge role in combating sewage pollution. There are fantastic examples of campaign groups like the Ilkley Clean River Group on the River Wharfe in Yorkshire and the Windrush Against Sewage Pollution Group in Oxfordshire, and also Matt Staniek's project on Lake Windermere. Fantastic examples of community initiatives getting together, campaigning, getting MPs involved, putting pressure on their local water companies. So I'm an optimist. The community voice is so important. If you want to get involved, be curious, ask questions, find out how much sewage has been dumped in your river and campaign against it. And it's no coincidence that water companies are investing in those places that are making the most noise.
Before you were upstream with Jamie in Blakely, which is just north of where we are now. We're just a little bit further downstream in a place called Harper Hay. So we've got a group of kids from a local school that we work with. They're coming down specially today to do some testing. We're going to be testing for two sort of indicators of water quality.
So we're going to go in the river with our nets.
It's just really nice to see kids connecting with nature and caring about it. I think people are really concerned about sewage in the rivers. People feel unsafe just even coming to sit by the river because of smells, because of seeing it. And I think it really stops people from wanting to connect to it because they just feel it's not worth the risk.
In the early 2000s, late 90s, the River Irk used to be classified as a dead river, so there was nothing living in it. But with environmental work and other sort of legislation, that has improved a lot. And I think in that sort of relatively short period of time, it shows how resilient the rivers are to change, really.
I think it's really important that we sort out sewage because people ultimately should be coming here to enjoy the wildlife and not just seeing wet wipes.
There is this idea that we can keep doing it because no one cares, but if we as a collective really shout loudly about it, then more will be done.
I think if you're looking to look after your river and get involved, then you should connect with your community and make your voice heard.